Stephen Davis, a Mount Anthony Union High School teacher, alarmed the community last month when he posted self-described rants on YouTube and was found to be in possession of a semi-automatic Bushmaster rifle, the kind used in the Newtown massacre. In his first interview since being released from involuntary hospitalization, Davis explained the circumstances around the incident and took responsibility for his actions.
Explain what was going on when you were making those videos, why you were making them, and...
Yeah, you want some background?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've not had a drop to drink since December 17th, 2009.
Okay.
And since that point, I've been doing everything I could, going to meetings, seeing a licensed independent clinical social worker every week, running, training, eating nothing but broccoli and stuff at lunch. And back in April, I still felt that I was not, I felt that I needed to seek additional help from my primary care physician, at which time I was given medicine, and then I was given more medicine, and then more medicine, still seeing counseling, still not drinking or doing any other drugs.
These are psychotropic drugs?
Yes, sir. Zoloft, 200 milligrams, Wellbutrin, 300 milligrams. And after that time, I indicated to my physician that I still felt as though something's not right. I'm getting up at 4 a.m. and I'm running several miles, and I'm working out, and I'm eating right, and I'm going to counseling, and I'm doing all these things, and being a good teacher and a great father. So there was the discussion that it might be what's called adult ADHD. So I was prescribed methylphenidate, which is Concerta, with the stipulation that if anyone were to notice any type of erratic behavior, that my primary care physician would be called immediately. These calls never took place. I continued with the treatment. The doses were upped and up once more. By October, I was taking all 3 medications with the full dose of each. In December, I became ill. I had a sinus infection. And I also suffer from prostatitis. And I'll sign all the HIPAA forms for you to release that. I don't mind. Okay. I was staying home medically for those reasons, to recover sinus infections, antibiotics, intestinal issues, thrush, which is a yeast infection of the mouth. I was unable to teach effectively, so I stayed home. Okay. And you can ask around, it rarely happens. And things just continued to escalate a bit until eventually there were some private personal issues that developed, some miscommunication, personal, which finally led up to my choosing that I was going to leave my home and most likely stay in a hotel for several days while things settled down, which meant I got a storage bin at the U-Haul C15. I had put my stuff into plastic totes that I had purchased from Home Depot, and I was moving out my personal belongings. My experience with breakups in my family is that when you break up, your stuff winds up in the street. So I chose to do it a little more carefully. My experience has also been there's typically a great deal of yelling, fighting, just not good stuff for kids to see, and I cared so much about my kids, it was my intention to slip out, leave a note, and then try to settle things calmly so that they weren't exposed to that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, upon loading everything into my car, the last thing to load was my AR-15 Bushmaster semi-automatic rifle that I had purchased in 2009. I have my rifling merit badge. I like to shoot targets. However, the only thing I've ever killed was a robin when I was in 8th grade with a pellet gun. And I felt so bad that I went outside, I went out, I got it, I buried it, and I cried. That's the extent. That was it. Which is why when I joined Army ROTC to go to Vanderbilt University and went to boot camp, and first time on the firing range shooting the M16A2 rifle, I cried then too on the firing range because I all of a sudden realized I made a big mistake. I don't want to be in the Army. I don't want to shoot people. It was a long year. But there, and in the subsequent training my freshman year, I learned how to take apart, clean, and put together the M16A2 with my eyes closed. So when I decided it was time for me to purchase a rifle, legally, from Charlie Wells gun store, I chose the M16A2 kind of analog, the AR-15 Bushmaster. And when asked what kind of magazines I wanted, I chose the same thing that I'd used before, a 30-round magazine. The only time I have taken the gun out of its case, when it was stored in my basement with a gun lock the entire time, was when my wife went on vacation to April, or my family went on vacation to April. I had it, took it out, I wanted to look at it. I loaded a clip, did not fire it, just brought back memories of all the good times in ROTC, and took the clip out, put it back in the case, gun lock back on, put it back in the basement where it sat until the night of December 30th. However, before I put it in the car, I went to two neighbors, both doctors, and I told them that I was leaving my wife, and I wanted them to be aware so that they could watch my children and watch out for my wife. And back to the AR-15, it was the last thing I loaded into my car. Actually placed in my trunk.
So you'd already made trips to the U-Haul?
There were already items there. It was the last thing, it hardly fit. The car was packed.
Okay.
People can confirm this who've looked at my vehicle. Packed of my personal belongings, things I've had since I was a child, everything I would need to at least live out of the home for a few days, if not longer, and not have that stuff wind up in the street.
Sure.
Placed the rifle in the car with the intention of taking it to storage, and it's my understanding that someone called the police. I do not have a television, and many people know this. I think it's odd. I don't watch TV, and I don't read the news that much. I like to read international news. I had heard of the Newtown, Connecticut shooting and the horrible tragedy that occurred there. I was unfamiliar that I owned the exact same rifle as that man, or I believe I know now his mother. In either case, the rifle that was actually left in the back seat of his car, it's my understanding, allegedly. Mm-hmm. So I had no idea. I put it in my car to take to storage. The people saw that. The officers arrived. I went out to greet them. The first thing I told them, one of the first things was, officers, there is an AR-15 with a gun lock in a case in my trunk. They asked, is it, I believe, legally owned? I said, yes, sir, it is. And that was the extent of that conversation. They searched the house, no more weapons, it's the only one I had. The majority of the ammunition was locked in a gun safe, or a safe in my basement with a lock. There were not 200 rounds of ammunition in my car, there were not 500 rounds of ammunition in my car. There was the ammunition that I had taken out on the night of an April vacation to load up a clip or two. I don't remember exactly. I hadn't opened it since then. That's what was in there.
Okay.
The police arrived a second time because I had made a call because I was worried about some behavior in my home. And I asked that something be done. The police did arrive, at which time they asked again if the rifle were in my car, and I said, yes, sir, it is. That was the extent of that. Other events transpired. I went to bed. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. approximately on the morning of December 31st to a knock on my door. It was the Bennington police officers, very professional, and were serving a temporary relief from abuse, which I took to be quite a shock. I did not know at the time that that's what a quote-unquote restraining order is. I'm familiar with that, but to hear the terms abuse as a loving and caring father, teacher, husband is quite heartbreaking and very stressful. They said that they needed me to surrender the weapon. I said, that's not a problem. Here are the keys to my trunk. Do you need to come out and verify? No, I do not. You can have it. I wrote a letter to Chief Doucette indicating that he is free to do with what he will with the rifle. He can destroy it. He could give it to an officer as a commendation. He could sell it and use the money for one of his programs. He did in the end wind up selling it, and I'm totally fine with that. I own no other firearms. The only other weapons I've ever owned have been a pellet pistol and a pellet rifle. The police, again, they asked for the rifle. I surrendered it peacefully. We had a discussion about the terms of the relief from abuse order, and they left shortly thereafter. I took a shower, ate breakfast, and played with the gerbils. And then I realized that I was very unhappy with that, and I then made approximately, I would say, an hour later or more, a series of videos on YouTube that I addressed certain feelings I was having. But I think if you watch them carefully, especially, there's no mention of any rifle or any violent action that I would have taken. I've never hurt anybody, never did hurt anybody, and I never will hurt anybody. I'm not that person.
I know some people were alarmed
Right.
and concerned for their safety.
And I take full responsibility for the frightening nature of those videos. I ask that at least the consideration for my forgiveness one day can be made for the fear and harm and other things I may have caused this community, and especially my students and their families and my own family.
So, and have you watched those videos yourself?
Since that point?
Then?
No, I've not.
But it sounds like you understand how people could be alarmed by
Fully.
seeing them.
And by connecting all the dots and then putting that AR-15 in my possession, 100%, it was crystal clear to me very shortly afterwards, not even a 24-hour period, exactly how it looked.
Okay.
Some of the language was ambiguous,
Correct.
talking about military tactics and
Oh,
things are going
yes,
to
sir.
come down hard
Okay.
and fast.
I had been reading the previous month a lot of different business strategies and a lot of different suggestions. I mean, I was aware that one course at Harvard that you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu,
Right.
and different higher corporate tactics where they use some ideas of counterintelligence and whatnot. So, yes, that was from web research I'd done just on basic corporate tactics, corporate, you know, you check out your competitor, things like that. It was not in reference to anything. It was more of a rant, a very poorly delivered rant.
And that rant was brought on by over-medication.
I
you're saying.
believe it led up to that, a lot of personal and stress from work and other issues that culminated that morning with the relief from abuse. So that was my venting. Unfortunately, I did it on YouTube, and because I had been doing search engine optimization and whatnot for my business model, I had been able to acquire almost 8,000 likes on my Facebook fan page, thousands of subscribers to my YouTube channels, and I think almost 300,000 Twitter followers.
Right.
Because I read the manual and learned how to do it. So I had actually done that in the past, so when I did put the videos online, they were spread very, very quickly in a very rapid fashion.
So it's a very public breakdown.
Very public, correct. Yes, sir.
And you would describe it as a breakdown?
Nope, I would describe it as a rant. I not comment on that.
Okay.